Hi, Shelley Lavery here. Thank you so much for landing on this video around self-coaching. I'm going to assume if you're here that you're interested in self-coaching and maybe you're looking for some tips on how to get started, or maybe you're already self-coaching and you're wondering if there's ways you can improve what you're already doing. Or maybe you're a sales manager or a sales leader and you're just interested to see if there's any useful advice in here for your team, which I hope there is. Hope you find there is once you've listened back to it. However, whatever your reason, I am a massive believer in self-coaching. I'm hugely passionate about it. And for context of this video, what I'm talking about here is the practice of listening back to our own sales calls if we're in sales, or our customer calls if we're in success, for the purpose of developing ourselves, for owning our growth, for making us better. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to focus on what I think some of the benefits are of the practice of self-coaching. Also what the challenges are, because let's face it, it doesn't necessarily come easy to all of us. And also I want to share some tips with you that might make it easier, a better, more productive time, or maybe just help you enjoy it a bit more, who knows. But I hope you find something useful within the next sort of 8 to 10 minutes or so. So let's dive right in. And let's start here with, how can self-coaching help you? You know, I've been in sales leadership for the last 18 years, sales a lot longer than that. And I can tell you that I've worked with sales reps who have embraced self-coaching, that have seen it as necessary. And I have worked with those that have resisted it. And I'd just like to share some of the things that I've witnessed from those that have really embraced it, that really see it as a necessary part of their week. The first is, those people that self-coach are really open to feedback. I think being honest with yourself is one of the hardest things to do. And when we're honest and more open to ourselves, when we can listen to our own feedback, it just brings down the defenses and just makes us more open and more welcoming of feedback from others. And obviously that can only be a good thing when we're trying to develop and grow. The next thing is, people that self-coach have a real high level of self-awareness. And with that comes absolute clarity on, where do I need to coach myself and where do I need to get better? And it just fuels their success because they're just really focused on those growth areas. The third thing is, and this is probably my favorite, when you self-coach, you're in charge. You know, we've got our friends around us, we've got our teammates, we've got our boss, our leaders, but we're with ourselves 100% of the time. Why can't we rely on us to develop ourselves? Surely that is the most powerful place to be. We are with ourselves 100% of the time. Let's use some of that time to really propel ourselves forward, to help ourselves grow. And customer connection, you know, when you're in the middle of a call with a prospect or a customer, there is a lot going on. You're trying to listen attentively. Maybe you're thinking about the flow of the call, you know, where am I going to go next? Maybe the product team have just released a new feature and you're trying to weave that in somewhere and remembering how to position it. Either way, there is a lot going on, and undoubtedly taking that time to reflect on that call and listen back, you're just going to learn something and see something that was hidden in the moment against all that fuzz that was going on, that could help you learn and improve. And finally, better results. Those people, those reps, those people in success teams that are self-coaching, their performance is better. And we've analysed this ourselves. Jiminy is a coaching platform. And what we've done is taken the data and looked at the people that are actively self-coaching and compared it to those who are not self-coaching at all. And what the data showed is that those sales reps or success reps that are spending 3 to 4 hours each month invested in their own development, listening back to their own calls, on average have a 5.5% higher win rate than those who are not. And you know, I'm just not sure that there is another lever that you can pull that will have an impact on your performance like that one. It is significant. So it's really hard to argue with the fact that those people who are actively looking at their own performance and setting goals for growth are outperforming those who aren't. But that doesn't mean to say it's an easy thing to do. There are challenges with it. And I just want to face what those are. Let's just be upfront about them, because I've come across them myself. I've heard others talk about them. The first one being time. You know, we're all so busy. There's a load of things to do every day. We're all metric driven, KPI driven. We've got things to achieve in our sales processes. There's not a huge amount of time going. I get it. Also, if you've just made a call and you know you messed up on it, it was hard enough to experience the first time probably. Do we really want to go back in and listen to that again? Probably not. Also, it's unnatural. We're not all particularly comfortable in listening to our own voice. I know I'm going to have to go back and listen to this in a moment, and that kind of makes my toes curl a little bit, but it's important. And also, we're really emotional about our outcomes. Every deal means so much to us. Every renewal means so much to us. There's a financial thing at stake. There's our leaderboard status at stake if we're in a really competitive team. So it's hard when we're emotionally attached to something to remain objective about our own performance. So what I'm hoping over the next few slides is that I can just give you some tips to break some of those challenges down so that you can really embrace self-coaching. You can see it as something that is a non-negotiable part of your week. Let's just start on this issue of time. I'm too busy. I don't have time to self-coach. Well, let me just tell you that there are 2,400 minutes in a 40-hour working week, which is a lot of minutes. And I'm sure many of you are actually working a lot more of that, a lot more than that. But let's just take 40 hours for the principle. Those that are winning more are self-coaching 3 to 4 hours a month. 3 hours a month is just 45 minutes each week. 45 minutes in a 2,400 minute week is just 2% of your time. 2% of your time dedicated to self-coaching and 98% for everything else. That's it. 2% of your time dedicated to getting better so that everything else that you do in that week is improved because of it. You absolutely do have time in your week to dedicate 2% to self-coaching. It's not a huge amount of time to dedicate. The other issue of time is when. When do you self-coach? We all know this saying, phrase, sales is a roller coaster, right? And that roller coaster ride, that up and down thing that we go on every day, it affects our mood, it affects our priorities, it affects our ability to be objective and remain distant from the emotion of something. So self-coaching in the morning is the best thing to do. Coach yourself before that carriage has left the station and is rising up that first hill, because that's when you give yourself the best chance of being objective, of not letting anything else get in your way. So yes, you've got 2% in your week, and yes, you've got a morning each week you can dedicate to it. Mark it up in your calendar now, put it in there and prioritize it like you would prioritize a sales call or a prospect call. Right, let me just give you some tips on those other areas around remaining objective and how you deal with listening back to yourself. The first thing you need to do is set yourself into coach mode. So you need to separate yourself from sales mode or success mode. The best piece of advice I can give you is do not self-coach in the same space where you're wearing your sales hat or where you're wearing your success hat. Because when you're sitting there, you're reminded of, oh God, what have I got to do today? Oh, the crap that happened yesterday, or the targets I need to hit. That's what you're going to be reminded of sitting there. That's not helpful. Switch space to switch mode. Go into a new room, a new place to coach. Next up, this distance thing, this being able to distance yourself from the emotion of the call. It's hard because there's a lot at stake, and I understand that. One thing you can try when you're listening back to your calls is to become the narrator of the call. So what does that look like? That means when you're listening back, instead of thinking to yourself, oh, I really confused the prospect when I said that, instead try, Scott really confused the prospect when he said that. Try becoming the narrator of your calls, and what you might find is that it helps create some distance between you, your emotion of the deal, and an objective view of your performance. The other thing that we kind of talked about at the beginning there was it can be uncomfortable listening to ourselves. And knowing that when we hit play on that record button, what happens? All we can do is hear ourselves. And that's because our mind really amplifies what we're focused on. And so I want you to try something else. Instead of focusing on yourself and worrying about what you sound like, I actually want you to focus all of your attention on your customer or your prospect. Dial them up, dial yourself down. Really hone in and review the call from their perspective. What was the customer thinking at that point? What was the prospect thinking when they said that? What interesting questions did they ask? How did they react when I positioned that part of the product in that way? Really look at it from their point of view. It will help you again with that piece around remaining objective, but it will also help you just to review the call in balance and not being too obsessed about yourself, what you sound like, what you're doing, which is not helpful when you're self-coaching either. Next up, what do you see when you're looking at this picture? Is it the dark cloud? Is it really jumping out at you? It is at me. This illustration just depicts what happens quite often when we go into self-coach mode. All we can see is the issues, the dark clouds, the problems, the what went wrongs. Oh my God, did I really say that? Oh my God, I can't believe I did that then. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I could have done that better. All that stuff. And what I want you to do is I want to remind you that the role of coach is a positive one, and coaching is a confidence building exercise. And so, yes, when you're reviewing your call, there will be a dark cloud somewhere. There'll be something in there that stands out, but there will also be a beautiful rainbow. There'll be a nice flowing stream, a nice blue sky somewhere, beautiful green field. There'll be lots of beauty in it as well. And I want you to notice it. I want you to recognize it. I want you to write it down. I want you to learn from it. I want you to listen back to it and think, wow, I did a really good job handling that objection. Or I did a really good job positioning that new product. I'm going to write that into my playbook in terms of what I do. Learn from the great things you're doing. It builds your confidence. It's a really important part of self-coaching. But of course, we need to learn from our mistakes and we need to find those areas for growth. I often call it, where's your fuel? Find your fuel. What's that thing that's going to make you fly even higher? And when I talk to my team, I talk about finding the small and mighty thing within any call. Small because it's manageable. Find that one thing, that one or two things that's manageable that we can work on. But it's mighty, meaning it has the most impact on our performance. Find the small and mighty thing. Ask yourself, what is my small and mighty thing within this call that I can work on that's going to have the most impact on my performance? So there's my tips. There's a few things in there that we've just covered. But if you're going to take anything away, I want it to be these three things. Firstly, in terms of time, you absolutely have 2% every week to dedicate to yourself and your own development. Remember that stat. Remember those people that are doing this. Remember how much they're winning. Find that time for you. Make it a non-negotiable. Secondly, be kind to yourself. Remember, coaching is a positive experience. You're already flying. You're already doing a great job. It's just about continuing to rise, but do it in a kind way. And finally, remember, there is only one you. You are with you all the time. Rely on yourself. Own your development. My goodness, sky's the limit. Good luck. Thank you so much for listening. Please get in touch if you've got any other questions or feedback on this video. I'd love to hear from you.